When Kai Cenat stepped away after Mafiathon 3, people said it was burnout. When he came back quieter, slower, talking about his mental health, they said it was pressure. Fame does that, right? But that explanation never sat right with me, because success doesn't usually drain someone after the machine stops. It drains them while it's running. What people saw was a break. What I saw was something being removed. I wasn't a fan, I wasn't a viewer, I wasn't online guessing. I was there, standing post, watching the house, watching the pattern change. So here's the question you should be asking yourself before this story goes any further. What if Kai didn't lose something? What if something stopped holding him up? Because once you see how it works behind the scenes, you realize it wasn't about his mental health. It was about how little it mattered, as long as the output stayed high. Anyone who tells you security work isn't risky has never done it for real. It doesn't matter how clean the job sounds on paper. You're still standing between people, money, ego, and impulse. And those don't mix well when the lights are on and the cameras are rolling. I'd been doing this long enough to know that. Long enough to know that things don't go wrong because someone plans them to. They go wrong because someone gets tired, distracted, or thinks nothing bad can happen tonight. That said, I also knew my size helped. At 6'5" and just north of 260, I didn't blend in. Most of the time, I didn't need to say much. People saw me and adjusted. I'd been told more than once that just having me on a detail lowered the temperature. With you there, it won't be that bad. That was usually how it was pitched. So when the call came in after Mafiathon 3, I didn't hesitate. High-profile property, young talent, long hours, mostly internal issues. Not a threat job, my supervisor said. It's about keeping the place intact. That part made sense. Anyone who's been around sudden money knows what happens next. Young guys, no off switch, friends everywhere, sleep optional. Houses take a beating before the people do. The mansion confirmed that the second I stepped inside, it was huge, expensive, and already showing where in places money was supposed to protect. Scuffed walls where equipment had been dragged too fast. A cracked light fixture that hadn't been replaced yet. Furniture shifted into corners like someone needed more space than the room allowed. This wasn't a home. It was a staging area, and it was loud. Not music, voices, footsteps, laughter bouncing off marble. Phones held up at every angle, screens glowing even when it was past midnight. Young streamers moved through the house like momentum alone was keeping them upright. Running from room to room, talking into cameras, yelling reactions to things happening somewhere else online. It felt like the house never powered down. I watched them move and couldn't help thinking the same thing over and over. How do they keep this up? They looked wired, not drunk, not sloppy, just fast, laughing too loud, talking over each other, always moving. Energy spilling into the hallways like it had nowhere else to go. I'd seen party houses before. This wasn't that. This felt closer to a machine that didn't know when to stop. In the middle of all that noise, I saw Kai. He passed through the hallway without slowing down, hoodie up, head forward, no camera in his hand, no entourage pulling at him. He didn't react to the chaos at all, didn't smile, didn't flinch, just walked like he had a destination already mapped out in his head. What stood out wasn't that he ignored everyone. It was how controlled he looked doing it. While everyone else burned energy like it was unlimited, he moved like he was conserving something. Every step measured, every motion deliberate, not tense, not relaxed, just locked in. For a split second, our paths crossed. He didn't look at me. I didn't turn. Gotta stay locked in, I thought, and kept walking. That's the job. You don't gawk. You don't acknowledge unless protocol calls for it. You stay where you're supposed to be and let people move around you. Still, the contrast stuck with me. The house felt like it was vibrating, full of noise and motion and excess. And right through the center of it moved someone who looked like he'd stepped out of a different environment entirely. Quieter, narrower, more controlled. I took my position for the night not long after that, Chaos continued behind me. Voices, laughter, doors opening and closing. In front of me, the hallway stretched out clean and still, lights low, air cool enough to keep you alert. I squared my shoulders, set my feet, and fixed my eyes forward. I remember thinking that the hardest part of the job was going to be keeping the house from tearing itself apart. At the time, I had no reason to think otherwise. I didn't know yet that the real danger wasn't the chaos behind me. It was how focused everything else felt. Standing post teaches you how to feel time differently. Minutes stretch, sounds repeat. Your body settles into a stillness that isn't relaxed, it's held. Muscles stay ready, eyes stay forward. You don't move unless there's a reason, and you don't invent reasons just to break the silence. That night, the silence broke me first. I was positioned at the end of a long interior hallway, far enough from the main rooms that the noise faded into a low, distant hum. Laughter echoed occasionally. Footsteps passed and disappeared. Doors opened and closed. Normal movement, nothing out of bounds. Then I felt it. Not a sound, not footsteps, just a pressure behind me, like someone stepping into my personal space without touching me. The air shifted, subtle but unmistakable. The kind of sensation you feel before you turn around, already knowing someone is there. Except I didn't hear anyone approach. I stayed facing forward. That's training. You don't snap your head around because of a feeling. You wait for confirmation, sound, movement, anything that justifies breaking posture. The pressure grew. It didn't rush. It didn't spike. It just closed distance, inch by inch, patient and deliberate. My shoulders tightened. My breathing slowed on instinct. Every part of me wanted to turn, but the hallway ahead stayed empty, clean, still. I told myself it was nothing. Air circulation, fatigue, my mind filling in gaps. Then it got closer. Close enough that the space behind me felt occupied. Close enough that I could sense height, proximity, intent. The kind of awareness you get when someone is standing just outside your peripheral vision, waiting for you to acknowledge them. I didn't move. Protocol doesn't care how uncomfortable you are. You stand your post. The pressure stayed there long enough that my jaw clenched without me realizing it. I remember thinking, this isn't how people approach. There was no hesitation, no adjustment of weight, no clearing of a throat. Just presence, settled directly behind me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned. The pressure vanished instantly. Standing there was a man I hadn't seen before. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Clean medical scrubs under a tailored jacket, like he'd dressed for both a hospital and a meeting he didn't want to explain. His smile was already in place, calm and practiced, like we were meeting in passing instead of in the middle of a locked hallway. His eyes didn't match it. They were dark, not in color, but in depth. Flat, observant, like he was looking through me instead of at me, taking inventory. Beside him stood Kai. He looked different up close. Not tired, not stressed, energized if anything, but tightly so. Like everything inside him was running at the same speed. His posture was upright, his focus forward, attention already somewhere else. He didn't acknowledge me at all. The man stepped forward before I could say anything. "Doctor," he said, extending his hand. His voice was smooth, friendly, measured. Part of the team. I took his hand. The grip was firm, too firm, cold. It lasted a second longer than necessary, like he was waiting for something to register. A vibration ran up my arm, subtle but unmistakable. And for a moment, my balance shifted, like my body had misjudged where it was standing. I pulled back and reset my stance. He smiled wider, satisfied. One of the other guards passed by a moment later, breaking whatever tension had settled in the hallway. He glanced at the man and nodded casually. "That's one of the docs," he said, like he was pointing out a maintenance worker. "High-end personal doctor. They travel with these guys now. Always got one on staff." I nodded. On paper, it made sense. Money buys convenience. Convenience buys access. If you're pushing yourself hard enough, someone's gonna make sure you don't break in public. Still, something about the way he'd appeared bothered me. Doctors don't approach from behind like that. They announce themselves. They respect space. This man had done the opposite. Closed distance silently, waited, then smiled like we were already acquainted. Kai moved past us without stopping. The doctor watched him go, eyes tracking every step. He didn't rush to follow. He didn't speak, just observed, like he was confirming something had been set in motion. Then he turned back to me. "Long nights," he said, friendly again. "Make sure you stay sharp." He stepped away, following Kai down the hallway, his footsteps finally audible now that I was watching him. When they disappeared, the hallway felt lighter, not safer, emptier, like something heavy had been removed and the space hadn't adjusted yet. I stayed at my post. That's what you do. But for the rest of the night, every time someone walked up behind me, my body reacted before my mind did. Muscles tightening, breath slowing, waiting for pressure that didn't come. By morning, the house was loud again. Chaos resumed like nothing had happened. Streamers laughed. Phones glowed. Movement filled every corner. No one mentioned the doctor. No one mentioned the hallway. And I didn't ask. Because in this line of work, you learn quickly that the fastest way to lose a good assignment is to notice the wrong thing out loud. After the doctor appeared, the house changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It didn't quiet down and it didn't slow. If anything, it became more efficient. The chaos tightened. The noise stayed loud, but it stopped spilling over the edges. Schedules started holding. Streams ran longer, cleaner. Fewer technical issues, fewer delays. People stopped wandering aimlessly through the halls and started moving with purpose, like they already knew where they were supposed to be. Someone, no one ever said who, had organized the madness. The black SUV began showing up on a pattern. Same window, same route, same pause at the gate. I noticed it because my job was noticing things, but after the third time, everyone stopped paying attention. That's how routines work. Once they repeat enough, they become invisible. The doctor was always with it. He never rushed, never checked his phone, never looked surprised by anything he saw inside the house. He moved through rooms like he'd already been there, like the layout existed in his head before the walls did. And Kai was different. He didn't burn out. He didn't fade. He sharpened. Streams stretched past the point where exhaustion usually sets in. Hours blurred together, and he stayed locked in the entire time. His speech was fast but precise. Jokes landed clean. Reactions hit on cue. He caught details other people missed, remembered conversations he shouldn't have had the energy to track. From the outside, it looked like growth. From the inside, it looked like something holding everything in place. I watched him move between sessions without the usual signs of wear. No slumped shoulders, no dragged feet. He walked upright, focused, like his body and mind were operating at the same speed for once. Other guards noticed too. "Man's built different," one of them said during a shift change. Nobody disagreed. What stood out to me were the small things, the details you only catch when you're paid to stay quiet and look. He laughed half a second after everyone else sometimes, like the reaction had been approved internally before it surfaced. He'd agree to something on stream, then ask what it was a few minutes later. Not confused, just confirming. Before long sessions, he repeated the same phrase under his breath, almost like a checklist. The doctor was always nearby during those moments, not hovering, not interfering, just present. When things edged toward discomfort, when jokes went a little too far, when boundaries blurred in ways that would have made most people hesitate, the doctor didn't step in. He watched. There was a night when the cameras stayed on longer than they should have. Laughter filled the room. Someone crossed a line and nobody stopped it. It played as humor in the moment, chaotic, uncomfortable, brushed off as content. Later, when the stream ended, the room went quiet in a way I hadn't felt before. Kai didn't comment on what happened, didn't joke about it, didn't react at all. He just sat there for a second longer than necessary, eyes unfocused, like something was catching up to him from behind. Then he stood and moved on. That was the week everyone stopped worrying. Handlers relaxed. Staff joked again. Guards started calling it an easy assignment. From a security standpoint, it was flawless. No incidents, no outbursts, no breakdowns. Everything worked. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been traded for that stability. The doctor never celebrated the wins, never acknowledged milestones. He didn't need to. He watched results like they were confirmations, not achievements. One night I caught my reflection in a dark window while standing post. I looked alert, steady, professional, exactly how I was supposed to look. Behind me, through the glass, Kai crossed the room. Posture perfect, expression neutral, moving with the same economy of motion I'd noticed the first night. For a moment, the similarity unsettled me. Not because we looked alike, but because we were both conserving something: energy, attention, reaction. The house stayed loud, the streams stayed big, the numbers climbed. And underneath all of it, there was no sense of strain anymore, just alignment. I told myself that this was what success looked like when it was managed properly, when people had the right support, when someone made sure the system didn't overload. That explanation fit. It was clean. It required no follow-up questions. So I accepted it. That's the thing about jobs like this. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to understand your role. Stand where you're told. Watch what you're assigned. Don't interfere unless protocol demands it. And protocol never demanded that I ask why everything suddenly worked so well. It wasn't until later that I realized how quiet the doctor had been during those weeks. He didn't need to say anything. Whatever he'd done, it was holding. And nothing that holds that tightly does it for free. I noticed the change before anyone said anything. The black SUV didn't show up. No headlights at the gate, no pause at the curb, no quiet confidence moving through the front door like it had every other night. The schedule rolled on as if nothing was missing, but the absence pressed on the house the way weather does. Slow, unavoidable. No one announced it. No one asked questions out loud. That's how things disappear in places like this. They don't leave. They stop being mentioned. The mansion didn't get louder without him. It got looser. Times slipped. Streams started late. Breaks stretched longer than planned. People wandered again, not aimlessly like before, but cautiously, as if they weren't sure where to stand without instructions. They hadn't realized they were following. It felt like a building after the power goes out. Not dark, just unbraced. Kai felt it most. At first it was small. He moved slower between rooms. Took longer to answer simple questions. Sat at his desk staring at screens that were already on, hands resting where they'd always been, like he was waiting for something to click back into place. This wasn't exhaustion. I'd seen that plenty of times. This was heavier. Like gravity had been turned up without warning. He started missing meals, not forgetting, choosing not to. Food would sit untouched until someone cleared it away. Sleep came in short bursts, broken by long stretches of nothing. When he spoke, his words were careful, like he didn't trust them to come out right if he rushed. Confidence drained quietly, not replaced by panic or anger, replaced by doubt. I heard it in the questions he asked people who used to wait on him for direction. Heard it in the way he'd start something, stop, then start again like he was checking himself for permission he couldn't find. Creativity, the thing everyone said was endless, felt unreachable. Ideas stalled halfway to the surface and sank back down before they could form. The house adjusted around him, but it couldn't compensate. Moments from the weeks before replayed differently now. The laughter that had sounded harmless at the time. The way cameras stayed on just a little too long. The way jokes crossed lines, and nobody stopped them because stopping would have required slowing down. At the time, it all moved too fast to question. Now, with nothing pushing him forward, those moments had room to return. He didn't joke about them anymore, didn't reference them, didn't laugh them off. They just sat there, unaddressed, heavy. One night, I was walking my usual route when he stopped me in the hallway. No cameras, no staff nearby, just the low hum of the house and the soft light overhead. He looked smaller than he had before, not physically, something else. Like whatever had been keeping him upright had stepped away, and now he had to hold himself there alone. He didn't sound angry or scared, just honest. "Do you think," he asked, eyes fixed somewhere past me, "that I was only okay because something else was holding me up?" I didn't answer. There wasn't anything I could say that wouldn't turn the question into something official, something that would get written down or repeated the wrong way. Silence was safer for both of us. He nodded like he'd expected that response and walked on. After that, the whispers started. Not about him, about the phase. "This part always hits hardest," someone said one morning while pretending to check a phone. "He shouldn't have stopped like that," another voice added, casual, practiced. No one explained what that was. No one needed to. The tone said everything. This wasn't new. It wasn't even unusual. It was expected. Kai tried to push through it, went live anyway. Forced energy where it didn't come naturally. Some days worked better than others. Some days collapsed halfway through. Pressure returned without the support that had made it manageable before. The expectations didn't change. The pace didn't slow. Watching it happen made me feel complicit in a way I hadn't before. There was no protocol for this. No intervention I could justify. My job wasn't to fix people. It was to protect spaces, to stand where I was told, to keep eyes forward. And that's what I did. The house kept running. The schedules adjusted. The noise returned in uneven waves. Whatever had been holding everything upright was gone. And now everyone had to feel the weight themselves. There was no announcement when it ended. No statement. No post. No explanation passed down through the staff. Attention just shifted the way it always does. Slowly at first, then all at once. One week, Kai was still the center of gravity in the house, and the next he wasn't. Schedules changed, names rotated. Conversations moved on without acknowledging what they were moving away from. That's how things resolve here. They don't conclude, they redirect. I stayed on the job. No one asked me what I'd seen. No one thanked me for discretion. No one warned me about anything I shouldn't repeat. The silence told me everything I needed to know. I was still trusted, still useful, still invisible. A few weeks later, I was reassigned. Different property, same type of layout, same age group, same noise level that never quite shut off. The first night felt familiar in a way I didn't like. The same restless energy, the same sense that sleep was optional and limits were suggestions. I didn't mention it to anyone. Then the black SUV arrived. Same window, same pause, same engine idling like it had nowhere else to be. I felt it before I saw it. My posture adjusted without conscious thought. Muscles tightened, breath slowed. I stayed facing forward. The door opened. He stepped out exactly the same as before, unhurried, composed, jacket over scrubs, smile already in place. When he approached, he didn't introduce himself this time. He didn't need to. He extended his hand. I took it. The grip was identical, firm, cold, lasting just a fraction too long. This time, I was ready for the vibration that followed, the brief sense of recalibration. I didn't react. I didn't reset my stance. I didn't give him anything to read. His smile changed slightly, not wider, not narrower, just adjusted, like something had been confirmed. No words were exchanged. Inside, the new streamer moved through the house with the same restless momentum I'd seen before. Loud, energized, untouched. He laughed easily, talked fast, burned through attention without worrying about where it came from. For now. I recognized the early signs immediately. The way his focus narrowed as the night went on. The way he stopped reacting to distractions that used to pull him off course. The way he conserved energy without realizing he was doing it. I didn't warn him. That wasn't my role. I stood my post and watched the system settle into place around him. Schedules tightened, movement aligned. The house found its rhythm again. Everyone relaxed once they felt it working. That's the dangerous part. Not the pressure, not the pace. The relief that comes when someone else starts holding things together for you. I understood now why no one ever speaks up. It isn't fear that keeps people quiet. It's recognition. The knowledge that this machine doesn't need belief or permission. It just needs you to stay where you're placed and not interrupt the process. Speaking doesn't stop it. It just moves you out of frame, so I keep my eyes forward, I do my job. I notice everything and say nothing. I stand exactly where I'm told and let the pattern repeat itself without resistance. Because in places like this, silence isn't a failure of courage. It's how you survive long enough to be replaced.